Well, for the record, today is Sunday, and it's September the 12th, 2021. My name is Jonathan Jones, and I'm your host and moderator for the afternoon. The company that I'm connected to is the Healthcare Support Association of America. It's just a small not-for-profit organization. Our goal is to just disseminate information and to share well-researched, validated information that might be of benefit to you as you're making health and wellness decisions that could potentially have an impact on your life, because there's an ocean of information out there on what they refer to as the information superhighway. How do you know where to start? When you're trying to decide if there's anything natural that could benefit you. I'm not a medical doctor, and I don't ascribe to be one. We do have medical doctors and scientists and researchers and naturopathic doctors that work as part of our team. So as we pass on information, then what I do is I will run it by the team. We determine that it is valid. We do the research. We can confirm that there is pure, valid science behind some of the things that we recommend. And then we proceed from there. We're just going to mute everybody so we can kind of reduce the distractions. And you can feel free to unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question, or if you're going to be sharing any particular stories later in our discussion. The information I'm providing has not been evaluated by the FDA, meaning what I'm sharing with you specifically has not been sent to them for review. It's part of public information. And if you want any of the information that I'm sharing, just send me an email. My email address is jonathan@hcsaaa.com. jonathan@hcsaaa.com. A phone number that reaches me is 754-300-8909. Doesn't help to call. Texting is probably better. 754-300-8909. But I have nothing to hide, and I'm willing to share anything and everything that I have access to. Today, we posted that we were going to be talking about one of the things that makes certain people particularly susceptible to an adverse outcome from the current virus that is raging the planet and referred to as a pandemic. People who tend to be at high risk are those with pre-existing conditions. One of those pre-existing conditions just happens to be diabetes. And for me, it's kind of personal for me. I don't have diabetes, but I grew up with diabetes in my family. My mother had diabetes. I remember my personal fear of getting a shot. First doctor I remember as a child, Dr. Shirley. I didn't like Dr. Shirley. The only thing I remember about Dr. Shirley was getting a shot. And I remember crying. So I must have been an infant, very small. That's all I remember about Dr. Shirley was that shot. And I wondered why my mother would subject me to this cruel and inhumane treatment. I'm sure those weren't the exact words that was going through my mind at the time, but I still wondered that. So it traumatized me. So here it is now, I'm 59 years old, and I'm still remembering that moment that my mother allowed that man to stick me that way. Fast forward, and I'm seeing my mother inject herself every single day, multiple times throughout the day, in her thigh, in her abdomen, anywhere she could find a spot. She's sticking herself with these needles. And remember, I'm relating this to this horrible experience with Dr. Shirley. And I start to learn about what this diabetes is. And my mother tells me she's got these little vials of insulin. I find out, it doesn't take too many years in life to find out what happens if she doesn't have food in connection with her insulin and her shots. She would experience some really bad lows, and she would always explain to us, if you ever see me like I'm about to pass out, here's what you have to get in my mouth. Orange juice, get me this, get me that. She would list the things that we had to do to make sure that if my mother ever got into trouble, that we could help her out. Diabetes is all I've known. I married my beautiful, lovely wife, Joanna. Her father has diabetes. So we look at each other and say to ourselves, you know what? It turns out that certain things are passed on genetically, not necessarily from your genes per se. In other words, you don't necessarily have a genetic predisposition to diabetes, but your emotional constitution and the habits that you were developed that formed you in life based on your family exposure and your eating habits, your social habits can predispose you to diabetes. So we reasoned that if that's our future, because my father-in-law was losing his parts of his body. He had already lost his leg up to his knee, and he still managed to march Joanna down the aisle when we got married. But so he was suffering from amputations. So we reasoned that if we were going to avoid that being in our future, my younger sister was already diabetic. If we were going to avoid that, then we needed to make some adjustments in maybe lifestyle choices, our eating habits, because what we were exposed to as children evidently was going to expose us to this in our future. The way that we reacted to things, the way we responded to things, maybe this was going to be in our future. So that's what made us start to focus attention on diabetes and to start making some major adjustments. So be that as it may, it turns out in all of our research and studies, we found out that diabetes was an autoimmune disease. Autoimmune, that didn't even make any sense because the only thing connected to the immune system and disease was HIV back in the 80s and the 90s. So how is it that diabetes could be considered autoimmune? And very complicated because it's all connected to the toxins. I'm going to show you a little PowerPoint presentation. By the way, statistically, there's a huge amount of diabetes, no pun intended, in this country. Back in 2000, 2001, there was some 16 million people in the United States with diabetes. Today, there are some 30% of the United States population, 30% it was of the United States population is diabetic or pre-diabetic today. So we're talking about somewhere in the area of 100 million people. So it's an explosion of diabetes. They've even coined new phrases now. It's not just diabetes. They refer to diabesity as a new condition now. So because they know that obesity is directly connected to the potential for diabetes. But let's take a look at this brief PowerPoint presentation and see if we can relate to some parts of this. Let's see if I can get this to work right. Technology. I think I can share this portion of it. I'm not going to try to play a video. We played videos in the past, and as helpful as they can be, my tech just isn't robust enough to be able to do that for you now. So that's the reason I'm just sharing with you some of the statistics connected with diabetes. You imagine a marketplace where there's 130 million diabetics or pre-diabetics. Think about that. That's 1 out of 3 people projected to be diabetic within the next 4 or 5 years. 1 out of 3. Look to your left, look to your right. One of you has diabetes. Right now, there's about 30 people on the line. I can't see the number right now, 30 participants in this conference. That means statistically, there's probably at least 10 people here right now that are either diabetic or pre-diabetic that's on this conference right now. So 1 out of 3, which means that 1/3 of the United States population is at higher risk, not just of getting COVID, but having a negative outcome from COVID. And the complications go up, and the risk, the mortality risk goes high, even if they get vaccinated. So it's reason for concern about this disease. So why live with it? Well, before now, the only advice that doctors could give was to eat right and check your blood sugar levels on a regular basis. That's what they say. And if you talk to a doctor, they don't tell you what it means to eat right. they tell you to talk to a nutritionist. They advise you to go to someone who can give you direction on proper food choices. And the food choices, something like what we're seeing on the screen right now, would be what would typically be recommended. And these are good choices, by the way, if they're organic. If they're not organic, then it's like jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire, because most foods nowadays are grown with tremendous amounts of pesticides and toxic chemicals. And if it's not organic, there's a pretty good chance it's been genetically modified. And if you think that eating something that's genetically modified is no big deal, take your computer, go to a search engine, maybe Google if that's what you prefer, and type in the word Monsanto. And you'll see that even now, there is a $10 billion class action lawsuit settlement for anyone with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the list goes on and on. I would venture to say over the next several years, more lawsuits will come out of the pipeline because Monsanto has pretty much been buried. Bayer bought them out, and Bayer now is absorbing all of these lawsuits and the billions of dollars that are being paid out. You would think that somehow Monsanto would have been buried and taken off the market. No, every time they did a settlement, they were allowed to continue to promote their product as safe. They're paying out $10 billion with a B in financial settlements to individuals who suffered certain cancers, but they were not forced by law to admit that their product was carcinogenic. Even to this day, I think the World Health Organization only says that glyphosate, which is the active ingredient and the most popular ingredient that Monsanto produces, is a probable carcinogen, even with billions of dollars being paid out in settlements. They can still get on television and say that their product is completely safe. The next thing you want to Google is grains with weed killer, cereals with weed killer. And you're going to find out that 80 or 90% of the cereals have glyphosate in it. So if you're a loving parent or grandparent and you grab that box of Cheerios off the top of the refrigerator or out of the cabinet and you pour that for your grandchild for breakfast in the morning, ask yourself the question, would a loving parent or grandparent in their right mind feed weed killer to anyone, let alone their child or their grandchild? But that's what's happening right now. You can go to the grocery store and still buy Cheerios right now with genetically modified ingredients in it. And most of the cereals, if you're eating Quaker Oats, oatmeal that you think is good for the heart, right? There's got a big old heart on the front of it. It's good for your heart health. Hello, glyphosate, weed killer in it. So Google it. Don't take my word for it. You can check it for yourself and see. So besides the genetically modified organisms, which is a whole nother discussion in itself, and that's how the glyphosate is absorbed into the plant. So if you're eating something that's genetically modified, you're consuming weed killer. And there's a good chance too that you're consuming some pesticide if it's not properly treated. So all of that leads to free radicals entering into the body. And those free radicals and those toxins can lead to a disease like diabetes. Diabetes is very complicated. Most of the time, getting to the root cause of diabetes is not a very simple thing. Most of us right now, if I was to ask you to unmute yourselves now and say which organ in the body is malfunctioning because of diabetes, I would venture to say that just about everybody would say that it's the pancreas. So if it's the pancreas that's malfunctioning, why is heart attack a consequence of diabetes, a potential problem? Why is peripheral artery disease? I'm just starting from the center of the clock and going clockwise. Why is peripheral artery disease a potential occurrence in the life of a diabetic? Why diabetic retinopathy? Why cataracts? Why glaucoma? Why diabetic foot? I don't even know why they would refer to it as diabetic foot. Maybe they just ran out of fancy names to give it. Same thing with neuropathy, peripheral neuropathy. and stroke. Why are those complications associated with diabetes if the pancreas is the organ associated with diabetes? Joanna's bird wants to get in on the conversation here, apparently. So I don't know if y'all can hear it, this creature screaming. Anyway, why are these nothing on here shows the pancreas at all, and yet everyone who is a diabetic can relate to one or more of these particular conditions. My mother eventually she suffered from diabetic retinopathy. She never developed glaucoma, but neuropathy was a really bad problem. And you see on the left there the diabetic nephropathy that's associated with the kidney. So my mother was eventually dialyzing, and the complications of the dialysis is what created a problem for my mom, because she went in for a procedure, and eventually it led to a pulmonary issue, a clot in her lungs, and she began to retain fluid. And basically, by the time they put her back into ICU, again, she would not make it past the next day. So it wasn't the pancreas that was the problem. It was part of these peripheral issues that eventually led to my mother's death. But there's something interesting that took place in the hospital that brings us full circle on this discussion. So we'll get back to that in just a minute. Because the reason why those particular conditions that you saw on the screen is connected to diabetes is because of oftentimes the side effects of the treatment for diabetes. So you can look it up and do the research yourself, and you can see for yourself what the side effects are for the treatment. Insulin is very common. That's what my mother was injecting herself with every day, 2 and 3 times a day. She was injecting herself with insulin. And the herbologist, biokinesiologist that was training me and Joanna in this field was the first one that ever brought to my attention, not mind you, I'm in my 20s at the time that we're going through this course. She pointed out that there were just horrible side effects of the insulin. I said, well, why would they treat someone with something that's got such terrible side effects? It's either die from the effects of the body not being able to properly metabolize sugar, or suffer with the side effects of the insulin. It's a catch-22. So taking a closer look at it, here it is. I decided to go look and see what kind of adverse effects the treatment for diabetes could potentially have. And there's a list on the left side. And they know this. They know this. This is at the end of a clinical 5-year trial of adults with type 2 diabetes, upper respiratory tract infection, edema peripheral, hypertension, influenza, sinusitis, cataract, bronchitis, arthralgia, pain in the extremity, back pain, cough, urinary tract infection, diarrhea, depression, headache. And this really is just a short list. I just took a partial screen capture. That was insulin. And there's more potential side effects listed for insulin. Here's a newspaper item, was published in CNN. This is not even a year ago. This is just last year, November. There was a possible contaminant found in metformin that pulled it off the market. Possible carcinogen? Are you kidding me? There are some countries that won't even allow metformin in. It's considered too toxic and poisonous. But there are many people right now, the doctors will quickly put them on metformin to so-called control their diabetes. Look up the side effects of it. So that kind of brings us back to what I was mentioning before, where the biokinesiologist that was training us mentioned that diabetes was an immune system issue. Well, what exactly is the immune system? The immune system, very simply put, is the body's defense mechanism. If your defense mechanism isn't working properly, if it's confused, if it's attacking parts of the body and organs in the body, it can lead to a lot of different diseases. Here's one of them. This is the physician's desk reference that has a short list of what's referred to as glutathione deficient states. And by the way, glutathione is a very key part of the immune system. It's the most important molecule in your whole body. The immune system your body manufactures glutathione. Every cell in the body manufactures glutathione. If your glutathione levels are low, it can lead to cancer, arthritis, diabetes, asthma, chronic fatigue, cataract, stroke, HIV, hepatitis, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, aging, and many, many, many more things. Part of the reason for that is because glutathione is very important to controlling free radicals. If some of those same toxins we talked about at the very beginning, the pesticides or the GMO molecules, get attached to beta receptors on the pancreas, they literally block the beta receptors on the pancreas. So the pancreas has an inability to control sugar levels, detect sugar levels in the body, and tell the pancreas to release the appropriate amount of insulin. That's the connection between the immune system and an autoimmune disease and diabetes. Toxins, free radicals, coming in connection with the beta receptors on the pancreas, the immune system mistakenly attacking the beta receptors on the pancreas, thereby leading to diabetes. And there's the pancreas just sitting there, is not functioning. It's just not being told to turn on. It's like here you are sitting in a brand new car, and you don't have the key to put in the switch and start it up, or it's controlled by a fingerprint or your eye, and your fingerprint or your eye can't start it. It's sitting there, perfect condition, but it won't go into gear because it just doesn't know how to start. You can't, there's nothing to kick it into gear. That's what happens with diabetes. Therefore, insulin is injected into the body to try to now control the sugar levels, and the insulin in itself creates all the other problems. Here's an example. Dexamethasone, it's a type of steroid. For coronavirus, this is a year ago, they were giving dexamethasone as a treatment for the coronavirus. That's one of the things that can create diabetes. In fact, here's what it says. This is in Medscape. Even a few days of steroids can cause serious problems. So you're looking in the paragraph, in the body of the paragraph there, it can lead to cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, cataracts, and diabetes. Now, my mother-in-law, this is how my mother-in-law got diabetes. She had some pain. She was injected with some steroid to reduce the pain, and I came down with diabetes. Now, years after dealing with diabetes and talking to her doctor, the doctor said, well, it's the medication that actually gave you the diabetes. And my mother-in-law was livid. She couldn't believe it. She said, you mean to tell me you treated me with something that was going to cause diabetes in me? So, she's just livid over the whole thing. But the doctors say, well, it's if you want the treatment for the pain, we have no choice. But they don't discuss the potential consequences of it. And think about it. Think about it. What do they use steroids for? Anything that there's no treatment for. If you're having COPD, steroids. If you're having some form of arthritis, steroids. If you're having some other autoimmune disease, multiple sclerosis, something that the myelinating of your nerves is being eroded, steroids. If you have irritable bowel disease or Crohn's disease, not Crohn's disease, IBS, right? Or diverticulitis, any kind of inflammatory bowel disease, steroids, steroids, steroids. Everything that you look for, steroids. All of that will could potentially lead to diabetes. And that puts a person now at high risk for an adverse outcome today. That's why it's so important. It's because today, more and more people are becoming diabetics. And that would explain why there's 130 million people who are diabetic or pre-diabetic in this country alone. This country alone. That kind of brings us to the solution. The solution is connected to this gentleman right here, Dr. Kedar Prasad, well-renowned scientist and researcher. This man has been published more than 250 times. He's authored not 25 books, but I think it's 31 books now. And I think one of them is demonstrates the connection between diabetes and micronutrition. He's the world's first radiation biologist PhD. So he's the first human being who decided, you know what, I'm going to become a doctor. I'm going to become an expert in radiation. And I asked him why. I said, well, of all things, to become an expert in why radiation? He says, I was a boy when the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And he said, I reasoned that this can't be the last time that those are going to be used. So somebody ought to come up with a way of helping humans survive radiation poisoning. And he made that his mission in life, to come up with a nutrition that would do that. And sure enough, he was very successful with that. So brilliant that he also was the first human being, the first scientist to figure out that a particular type of vitamin E succinate, the cytotoxic to cancer cells. That put him on the map. That made him considered to be one of the most brilliant scientists on the planet. He figured it out. So cytotoxic to cancer means that it kills cancer cells. So vitamin E succinate kills cancer cells. He put that in his micronutrient formula, by the way. He became a member of the Nobel Peace Prize nominating committee, and he happened to be the scientist who nominated Linus Pauling. You ever heard of him? A brilliant man who came up with the notion that every disease is connected to a vitamin and mineral deficiency. Linus Pauling was the scientist who figured that out. It was Dr. Prasad who recommended him to the Nobel Peace Prize nominating committee. Dr. Prasad's formulation has been awarded a number of patents. The one that stands out and is of most interest to us, they're all of interest, but the very last one, look all the way to the right, micronutrients for treatment of diabetes mellitus. That's what his micronutrient formula is good for. Now, we can't say that any natural substance will treat or cure a disease. We're not allowed to tell you that, but we can tell you that the patent says this. That's all we can tell you. So you have to draw conclusions on your own as to whether or not this would be a wise thing for someone with diabetes to consider adding to their diet. So there it is. It's right on the header of the patent. I went and looked for it. I went and searched to see if I could find it myself, and all I did was Google it, and I was able to locate it. Micronutrient formulations for treatment of diabetes mellitus, Kedar N. Prasad. His name is right on there as the inventor. Now, if you like reading very boring and technical articles, read the patent. But if you want to spare yourself, I'm just going to share a couple little high points from the patent just to illustrate the benefits of this formula. In the abstract, it mentions specifically formulations for minimizing damage to at least one of the cells, organs, and systems within the body of a subject afflicted with diabetes mellitus. Okay, so it's a particular formulation to minimize damage to an organ of a person with diabetes. Which organ are we talking about again? The pancreas, okay? He mentions a little bit of background of his invention. This is back in 2000 and the year 2000 when the patent was first awarded. At that time, 5.4% of the total national population was suffering with diabetes. That's 16 million people. So from the year 2000 to now, the year 2021, we've gone from 16 million people in the United States to 130 million people. So what's been happening over the past 21 years since Dr. Prasad did his initial research? Why have we gone from 16 million people to more than 130 million who are diabetic or pre-diabetic? Part of it is the fact that they now know that there is a pre-diabetic category, first of all. So they now know when a person is heading toward diabetes, and there's no longer 2 types of diabetes. There's now 5 different categories of diabetes, including this pre-diabetic category. So that by itself would inflate the number and make the number a little bit bigger. But besides that, the definition of diabetes. Beside the definition of diabetes, what I illustrated at the very beginning too is an important part of this. The toxins that are going in the body. GMOs are now being used more prolifically in this country than ever before. You can find genetically modified organisms in things that are even called organic and GMO free. And the reason we can say that is because if say you're eating some organic animal product, it's a good chance that that animal was fed something that was genetically modified. So we're all being exposed to GMOs in some way or another. So that's part of the reason. But it's very difficult and very expensive to find organic and non-GMO products. And the majority of people in this country can't afford to eat purely organic and to avoid GMOs altogether because it's very expensive. I remember back in the early 2004, 2005, organic wasn't really popular. Now you can go to Publix and they've got an organic section. They have a whole brand now called Greenwise that's supposedly organic and GMO free in Publix. Back in 2004, 2005, you could find maybe one or two stores that had anything organic. Joanna sent me to the store to buy an apple or something, and she said to get an organic one. And I'm looking around trying to find this organic apple. I finally found it. One apple was $4, and I could buy a whole bag of apples for $1.50 or $2. Why in the world am I going to spend $4 for one apple when I can get a bag of apples for $2 or $3, whatever it was? It's a small amount of money, but one for what I could buy 2 bags. So most people obviously would just pass up on that one apple. I still remember a kid coming over to our house, and Joanna gave the kid an apple, and I knew it was that $4 apple. The kid took one bite of it and threw it in the garbage. I nearly lost my mind. And okay, it was only $4. But where I come from, first of all, you don't spend $4 for an apple. It didn't matter whether we could afford it or not. But the last thing you do is you throw an apple in the garbage that you paid $4 for. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm diverging here. You guys can see I need therapy. I think you guys can figure that out. I go through these episodes. Maybe I just need to take more micro daily. Anyway, back to our discussion. So the history of diabetes, he mentions right there, very much outdated, very different today. 130 million people today, diabetic or pre-diabetic. And in his patent, he describes the mechanism of this action is going to involve some degree of protection of the pancreatic beta cell. I told you about the pancreatic beta cells back about 20 minutes ago in this discussion. It's those beta cells that get damaged by free radicals and oxidative stress. And the immune system attacks them and turns on the pancreas because of trying to deal with those free radicals. So into the solution, elevated antioxidants, elevated correction of the immune function to get rid of free radicals long before they can attack the beta receptors on the pancreas. You don't want your beta receptors attacked. Am I hearing a question? Yeah, question. I think that you're wondering right now is what are the beta receptors? Okay, I'll tell you real quickly what the beta receptors are. Those little beta receptors are all around the pancreas. All around the pancreas. They detect levels of sugar in the body. When they detect levels of sugar, they release insulin. If your beta receptors are clogged with free radicals or oxidative stress, the pancreas will never release insulin. That's how important that is. So you don't want free radicals in your body. You're better off keeping free radicals out of your body. And in fact, if diabetes is all you have a problem with because of free radicals, you're actually fortunate because those same free radicals can cause cancer. So Dr. Prasad's invention is for the purpose of mitigating, if not entirely eliminating, the symptoms of diabetes mellitus. That's a powerful statement right there. Here it's in his patent that would be the purpose of this invention, mitigating, if not entirely eliminating, the symptoms of diabetes mellitus. And it made me happy to see this product. And it was Jeff and Helen Ashby that came to my house back in Goodness, must be about 6 or 7 years ago now. And I told them I only had 20 minutes that we could talk about this vitamin, is what I refer to it as, until I saw that it had a patent for the treatment of diabetes. And that completely changed my whole thinking about it. At the time, it was called Military Micronutrient Formula. Now the name has been changed to Micro Daily. I've got to update the picture on this slide because it says with CoQ10, but now it says, still says with CoQ10. Well, they're changing the label. It's gonna say Micro Daily Regular or Original Formula. So that's what it's going to say. But doctor, you can look at the list of ingredients, and the vitamin E succinate is on the list. So you should be happy about that. That's the fourth one down. So that means that it's working in your body to help you deal with abnormal cells, right? Cancer cells. So Dr. Prasad was the one who figured out that vitamin E succinate was cytotoxic to cancer cells. There's no other vitamin on the planet like this one. There is no other one. The United States government was the one that ponied up $20-some million for the research behind this and backing Dr. Prasad. It also has N-acetylcysteine in it, which elevates glutathione levels in your body. So that's extremely important, having high levels of glutathione. Dr. Prasad stepped forward and he created another formula to help with methylating the B vitamins, because some people who have a problem with the MTHFR gene would have a problem with that. So great product. There's very few people. So if you find yourself not benefiting to the full from Micro Daily Regular, then just step on up to the MTHFR formula. If you find yourself spending too much time on your computer or around lots of EMF, you're exposed to 5G, or you have decided to make your house a smart house with tons and tons of Wi-Fi everywhere, then you might want to take into consideration Dr. Prasad's EMF formula, because remember, his focus was on radiation. I didn't point it out in our previous slides of the patents there, but one of the patents was for DNA repair caused by ionized radiation. So this has even more of the anti-EMF formulation in it. So that's the EMF formula, okay? And then Dr. Prasad also had the nerve to concentrate on children. Now, we didn't talk a lot about children that are diabetic, but imagine being a diabetic child with a coronavirus floating around and adults fighting like children over whether or not everyone should wear a mask. And you're that diabetic child and you have absolutely no protection whatsoever. Nothing. There is no vaccine. And adults are squabbling over whether everybody should reduce their exposure to the virus because they don't think everyone should wear a mask. Well, Dr. Prasad stepped up and came up with the children's formula also. So you can also get the children's gummy. It's great. It's a gummy. This is what it looks like. This is what the gummy looks like. Comes in little sample packs like this also. So they say it's for children, but I find myself eating a couple of these a day. So my consumption of Micro Daily has gone up considerably. But some children, I've actually found 1 or 2 kids that don't like the gummy for some reason. Some children don't like citrus, but they love the hydro. This is my favorite, by the way. I take 2 packs of the hydro. It comes with these little sticks like this. So I've increased my amount because of the pandemic. Instead of taking just 1 of these a day in a bottle of water, I take and put 2 in a bottle of water. So I'm taking double now. So I take 2 of these in the morning, I take 2 in the afternoon, or I take 4 of the regular in the morning. So either way, I'm getting double the amount. And then just before I go to bed at night, I take 3 more capsules along with CBD so I can get a good night's sleep. So it's very simple. Oh, by the way, I need to just make sure everybody understands this. The equivalent of one pack of hydro and the original formula, 2 capsules. It takes 2 capsules to equal 1 packet of hydro. It takes 3 EMF capsules, 3 capsules of EMF to equal 1 pack of hydro. So 3 capsules equal 2 of these capsules because there's 4 more ingredients inside this one. So just remember that, because there's a lot of folks that are still taking the same 2 capsules of the EMF thinking that that's the equivalent of this, and it's not. So just remember, it takes 3 of the EMF to equal 2 capsules of the hydro. And there's instructions on the gummy for, depending on the age of the child, how many gummies the child should take. But we had some examples that we mentioned last week where parents have and grandparents have found that their children that are taking the gummies or the hydro or capsules of Micro Daily are finding themselves, when they went to school, coming back home not with colds, whereas the other kids who did go to school and claimed that they didn't like the gummies or wouldn't take them came back with colds. I'm not happy that the kids came back with colds. That's not the point here. The point here is that those who took the gummies were protected. And so it should be a lesson for all of us, and especially parents who care about their children, especially if you fed them Cheerios in the morning, make sure you send them out the door with this, so at least to offset that toxins that went into their body. You know what? Stop giving them Cheerios, okay? So let's cut the cereal out. Find something healthy for them to eat for breakfast. And then finally, peptide immunotherapy. I've told you guys about ImmuneRx. This is great too, because once you've eliminated your body from free radicals, this would help the immune system to stop attacking the beta receptors on the pancreas. So it makes the immune system smarter and reduces the autoimmune damage that the immune system can cause. Okay, so that's the essence of our discussion about diabetes, and the rationale as to why anyone who's diabetic or pre-diabetic or having problems controlling their weight would want to make sure that you add Micro Daily to your diet. It's a very serious matter, and should be treated as such. Okay, so we're going to pause here for a minute. And a lot of times the question comes up is, how much does Micro Daily cost? You can get back with the person who invited you to this call, and they'll help you set up your own wholesale account. But it's very simple. The cheapest way to buy it is on subscription. So you can get the original formula, which I think is wonderful, by the way. This is the original formula, very powerful. This is what Dr. Prasad got all the patents on. This is what the military used for years. All the soldiers on the battlefield were taking this one. So it's a very powerful formula. It's $49.95, $50. So it's a very powerful one, and it's cheap. The gummies for kids, I believe, it retails at $75, but if you go on subscription, you can get it cheaper. And the same thing with the EMF. The EMF, I think, is retail about $90, but if you go on subscription, you can get it cheaper. And the same with the MTHFR, $69, but if you go on subscription, you can get it cheaper. And the same thing with the Micro Daily. So get a subscription, and then you get it for the same price that distributors can get it for. But whoever invited you to this call, they can help you set up your own discount account for it. The only other thing that I really would highly recommend, two things. No matter which Micro Daily formula you take, because you may be saying to yourself right now, which one is the right one for me? If you're diabetic, you can go with the original formula. Any one of the formulas is good, but you can go with the original formula, but you need 1.5 bottles per month. So 1.5 bottles. Take 3 capsules 3 times a day. 3 capsules 3 times a day. If you don't like swallowing capsules and you prefer the hydro, that's fine. Take 1 pack of hydro and then open up 1 capsule and add it to the water. Just put it in the water, put the 1 pouch of hydro in the water and open up 1 capsule and add it to the water. That's the same as taking 3 capsules, for the day. Do that 3 times for the day, right? That will help you. You'll start to see your A1C start to improve. Your immune system will start to get better. Your need for insulin will start to go down. Your fasting sugar levels will start to improve. So you'll find yourself feeling a lot better. Your energy levels will go up as well. And if that 3 times a day doesn't work, doesn't help, then add 1 more capsule to each dose. So just keep increasing it, because again, we're dealing with a pandemic, and if you have age working against you, you need a little more anyway. Okay, so that's the basic formula for how much to take. But make sure that you drink plenty of water, and drink the correct amount of water. The correct amount of water is half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, then you would need 75 ounces of water per day. It's very simple. So whatever your body weight is, cut that in half, and that's how many ounces of water that you need. Coffee does not count as water. Green tea does count as water, but coffee does not count as water. So if you are a coffee drinker and you drink 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and those cups of coffee are 4 ounces each, you had an 8-ounce deficit. So your 75 ounces just went up to 83 ounces you need for the day, because coffee is a negative. So for every ounce of coffee you drink, you got to offset that with an ounce of water. So it's a deficit. It dehydrates the body. Okay, the caffeine. And but green tea has a hydrating effect on the body. It's safe, and it has ECGC in it also, by the way. So that's a whole nother discussion. So that's a good thing to add to your diet. Okay, so let's pause here and see if you have any questions about what we discussed today. And if you have a story that you'd like to share with us also, if you're one of the, see, we're up to 45 on the line now. So if it's 1 out of 3, so that means we have about 11 or 12 people or so on the call right now that are diabetic or pre-diabetic. So anyway, that have probably got some benefits from taking micro daily. So if you are one of those, we'd love to hear your story as well. So feel free to do that. Daphne Miller is the first hand up. So go ahead, Daphne. Question or comment?
I have a comment about the micro daily with a person who's diabetic. My mother's a diabetic, and she takes 5 shots a day.
Did you say 5 shots a day?
Yes.
That's a brittle diabetic.
A different diabetic medication. And her A1C level jumped about a week ago. She had started taking the children because of the micro daily green pack that she normally was taking. She was tired of taking the pills. She think they're kind of too big for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed the difference. I think she also had an infection while her diabetic got out of whack, but she had stopped taking the green, and I saw a difference. You know, when you take care of someone, when you take care of anyone with a disease or whatever it might be, you get to know some things better than. It's not that you went to school to be a doctor, but you figure out a lot of stuff.
That's right. Yes, you do.
So I knew that I had to get her back on the micro daily, and I did, and her sugar levels are kind of coming back into whack. Not whack, but into
alignment. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I know it really works, but I'm talking about the green. I'm not saying that the gummies doesn't work, but the green bottle made the best difference.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, there's a reason for that. There's some sweetener added to the gummies because kids won't eat anything unless it tastes good. So they added something to add a little bit of sweetener. It's a natural sweetener, but they added it there. It's not necessarily designed for a diabetic child, but that's one of the benefits it could give. But if a parent who has a diabetic child finds that there's too much sugar in it for the child, then just use the capsules. Yeah. That would be the way to go. So good. I'm glad you mentioned that, Daphne. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I see a big difference with the diabetes, and so many of my friends I know have pre-diabetic or diabetic, and I just keep pushing it, but I hope they're on the call today.
Mm-hmm.
But because you're explaining it real well, I'm hoping that you'll have a YouTube, because I will send it to them.
Yes, this one I'll post this one immediately today. So it'll be available right away. I'm just sorry, you guys. I'm mixing my hydro right now. I actually planned to mix it before we started our meeting. I forgot that I hadn't gotten it down, so I'm just working on that. So, but thank you very much, Daphne, for that. But we'll make sure that that this is available right away. It'll be posted in the chat. By the way, anyone who's not in the chat, just speak to whoever invited you today, and they will add you to the WhatsApp chat that we have. And that's where we post the topics, and we post the recordings, or you can get access to my YouTube channel. It's very easy. It's youtube.com/Jonathan Jones. And I've got a bunch of recordings there that of previous discussions, and any new ones come out. If you subscribe to the channel, then you're automatically notified through YouTube as to when new videos are posted. So youtube.com/Jonathan Jones. And that's JONATHAN, just like you see on the screen here on Zoom. So there's no funny spelling of it. Okay. All right. Thank you again, Daphne. Let's go to Sita Veluz. Did I pronounce your name correct?
Yes, you did it correct. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Well, welcome. Nice to have you with us.
Oh, I will still consider myself as still new because I'm still learning. So you just mentioned a while ago about what should I get? What kind of micro should I take? Because I have type 2 diabetes. And I noticed that my blood sugar is still the same, no change. I'm taking micro daily, the one that EMF for radiation, something. It's
Yes,
the red one, the red one. I'm taking that. But it seems like it's not helping my blood sugar. So you mentioned just moments ago that the best one for me to take is the color green, the regular one.
Well, you can take.
So how is it different? I mean, what is the composition of the two, like in terms of the kind of mineral or vitamin, or the number of grams? So how do they differentiate? Why is it better for me to take the regular one than the one I'm taking now?
No, that's a very good question, and that's a fair question. I'm glad that you raised that question. Let me make it clear, a little bit clearer. Everything that's in the green one, every single thing that's in the green one is also in the red one. Nothing is different. The only difference is this has 4 more ingredients. Okay. So now my next question to you is, how many capsules of this are you taking?
When I started, I take 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening.
Pause.
But then I brought this up last time when Jeff is the one on the program, as well as Dr. Prasad. I said that after taking that for a month, I developed some cramps on my right leg. And I said, why did I develop this? So I told Jeff about it, and Dr. Prasad told me to take just 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, and it helped. So he lowered the grams, the number of the total grams of what I'm taking, and that one works for me. But the problem is, I'm also I have also osteoporosis and diabetes, and so if I lower the dosage, I mean, of what I'm taking, then maybe it's not gonna help my other problem, like my osteoporosis, which I should take more calcium, and my diabetes. And I'm also beginning to be forgetful now, so I'm taking the brain booster. Brain booster, so I'm taking that too. Okay. Seems like I have a few problems, but
well, join the club.
I don't know how to take care of myself because I have to take more of this and less of that, you know.
Yep, I understand. I understand. Here's a suggestion for you then, Sita. Continue with the 1 EMF. And you take that twice a day, you said?
Yes.
And what kind of calcium are you taking?
I'm taking actually I'm taking multivitamin before I happened to bump into this micro daily.
So you're not taking calcium.
I did start taking calcium because when I look at the bottle, it seems like there is less calcium and I should take more. So I just decided to take more calcium, and then I usually take it between between the times that I take the micro daily, because I don't like to take it at the same time, because I know that micro daily has all this kind of proportion which will be more effective, and I'm afraid I might disrupt that combination.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I take it in between
Okay.
the time,
Okay.
at lunchtime actually.
Okay. Let me give you a suggestion for you. Okay.
Okay.
The multivitamin that you're taking, you might want to pause on that for a little while. Okay. Because when you take a multivitamin, it does disrupt the formula, Dr. Prasad's formula. So I'd like you to set the multivitamin aside if you can. Okay.
Well, actually, I did stop that when I started taking micro daily. What I mentioned a while ago is I used to take Centrum actually.
Okay, good.
But then when I started the micro daily, I stopped it altogether.
Okay, good. So the next thing will be, you got to get some calcium. You need about 2,000 milligrams of calcium per day. Okay, every woman should be getting about 2,000 milligrams of calcium.
Yeah.
You need a very good calcium. So I don't know where you get your calcium from. There's a company name by the name of Immunotech. Immunotech makes what I think is the best calcium out there. They get their calcium from milk, so it's more absorbable by the body. So if you can find someone, yes, Immunotech. So you can, there's a bunch of Immunotech distributors here on this call. So you could just text one of them, or whoever invited you here. They may even be able to connect you to Immunotech distributor, and they can help you get back calcium. Okay, this is the one that we carry. I mean, we keep it around here ourselves. I don't have it right in front of me, but that's the one that my wife uses. I've seen her get a cramp, and literally within seconds, the cramps start to subside. So whenever you're dealing with cramping, it's because your calcium levels are low, and the fact you have osteoporosis would indicate that you're very deficient on calcium. That's part of the problem.
I thought that because I love to read health information, and I come across with magnesium, and even Dr. Oz. I usually listen to Dr. Oz before, and he mentioned that if you suffer from cramps, then that means you need to take more magnesium.
Magnesium, don't get me wrong, magnesium will be good, but what it'll do is it'll start to soften your stool up too much. Increase your calcium and your potassium. All right. So if you're already taking magnesium, great. But now take your calcium up. More calcium, more potassium, and it'll cut the cramps down. Then you need to get the correct amount of micro daily in your body. So start taking, if you can, add to your program. Once you get those cramps under control, then start increasing it. Add 2 more capsules of the red one. 2 more capsules. Eventually get yourself up to 4 capsules of the red one 3 times a day. You'll start to see your sugar levels get under control. So increase your calcium, your potassium, drink more water, then your cramping will start to go down, right? You won't have that effect anymore. Then start to increase your micro daily. And then you'll start to see the improvements with your being able to control your sugar levels in your body, okay?
So I have to add potassium too, a separate
I would highly recommend it. I would highly recommend it if you can. Just eat more bananas, or find potassium. You can find potassium in papaya, or papaya capsules and things like that, so, okay?
Okay.
But you can text me or email me, and I'll give you some more specifics on that if you want to, all right?
Oh, yeah, all right. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that question. Appreciate that. Lita now has another question that she wants to ask. Hello, Lita.
Hello, Jonathan. Hello, everyone. I invited a dear friend. She's with us today, but she suffers with cancer. She has multiple myeloma. The question is, how could we help her?
Well, that's a good question. Keep in mind, and I just have to try to remind everybody of this, that by law, we cannot claim that any micro daily, any natural product is going to be a treatment or cure for disease. But I would highly recommend in her case that she get started on micro daily, and just take as much of it as she can afford. She might want to consider taking 4 capsules 3 or 4 times per day, with her meals. Just increase that, and that will make it can make a big difference in her immune system's ability to deal with that problem. Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And Lita, make sure you send me an email. Okay. Because
I will.
there's some other suggestions that we can direct you toward and ways that you might be able to help your friend.
Yeah, she's listening right now.
Okay, just make sure you can make contact with me sometime during the week, okay?
I'll text you. Thank you.
All right, you're very welcome. And we're just about out of time here, but let's, Linda Ross has a question. So let's go ahead, Linda, you got the last word today.
I got two quick things here, Jonathan. First thing, my sister does have diabetes. She's got multiple issues, but I believe that the microdata is helping her. She went to get her, went to the doctor, to her endocrinologist, and the doctor was really shocked at her. Okay, saying the host is asking me to restart the video. Okay, but the doctor is really helping that microdata is helping to drive down her A1C, okay?
Good.
But she's taking, this is the deal, she's taking 3 of them a day, not three times a day. She's taking 1 with each meal, but it's still bringing down her A1C. If she took more, can she wipe out her diabetes?
If she takes more, she's going to find herself, her doctor will start to reduce the amount of medication that she's going to need.
Oh, fascinating. Okay. Thank you for telling me that. Here's the second thing I want to ask you very quickly. Jonathan, there's a real issue brewing, and it's really serious. I need to, if I can't talk to you about it now, I need to talk to you about it later. We're being pushed by the government to do things now. And I need to know, you mentioned that there was a treatment somebody's working on for if you just happen to have taken these vaccinations, that there's some sort of treatment that a doctor is working on to undo the problem. Now, here's the issue. You said that like a couple of months back. Here's the issue. A doctor named Dr. Robert Young has done a lot of tests on them. He wanted to know, since he was not getting any information of the other ingredients they won't name that's in the vaccinations, he did multiple tests on every single company that's put out a vaccination. And this is what he's saying is inside of it. He's saying that it has something in it called graphene oxide. And what it has is some sort of trypanosoma cruzi parasites that have been found in the Pfizer vaccine that are composed of carbon, oxygen, chromium, sulfur, aluminum, chloride, and nitrogen. Now, here's the problem with that. A lot of this stuff has metals in it. It was talked about, it even has aluminum, and aluminum will give you cancer. It's saying that it has sulfur and aluminum and chloride and nitrogen. So the things he's saying, he's seeing in this thing, he's asking other doctors, these are the tests that I did to find out what's in this thing, and all these microscopes that I didn't realize existed. And he's inviting all other doctors to go and look for yourself and do the same test. They're not telling us the whole thing that's inside here. So I'd like to know, has this doctor that you're talking about done a test to find out what's in these vaccines, that he could come up with an antidote that if you are forced by law to take them? Has he done that, Jonathan?
That is a very good question, Linda. Here's what I can tell you. When you raise glutathione levels in your body, one of the benefits of elevating glutathione is that the glutathione molecules almost literally takes handcuffs and puts it on free radicals, including metals like mercury, cadmium, and lead.
Oh my goodness.
So raising glutathione in the body would help to remove toxins from the body, including metals. Okay.
Even if it's injected into your body?
Raising glutathione levels will help detoxify the body of metals. And that's the part
Okay.
of the reason, that's part of the reason why I double up on what I'm taking. You know, because at some point, I think everyone's going to face a decision about, you know, adding a vaccine to their body. At some point, that's going to wind up being a universal thing, because as you said, the government is putting a tremendous amount of pressure on, number one. But because the virus is out there, I also have decided to double up. So I'm just taking a lot more, because more is not, I'm finding out is not only not hurtful, it's actually very helpful. I'm
Yeah.
finding my energy levels are going through the roof. I'm able to exercise much more than I was before. So everything is going in the right direction. But again, it's raising glutathione levels. So glutathione is going to work on that metal issue that you're talking about, number one. The main focus of the doctor who was working on something to help someone who decided to be vaccinated was there's a mechanism of action within the vaccine that could potentially create a problem for any one of us,
Yeah,
because
that's what he's
it
saying.
doesn't know how to stop. See, because it never stops. The vaccine usually stays right there, but
Yeah.
this vaccine travels everywhere. So what he was working on was something to help contain that out of control proliferation is the whole point. So that was the focus of his research. But yes, you're right. We can talk about that again, maybe offline, and
Okay.
maybe help to clear some of that up. Okay.
All right then.
And it is available. We mentioned it last week that those who are interested in something like that, they can go to the website amerixbio.com and they'll see some of those things. The product is called VaxedRx, VaxedRx, VaxedRx. It's on the website amerixbio.com. Okay.
Vaxxed RX.
Yes. All right. Very good. So thank you very much, Linda, for your question and your feedback on the other matter. Okay, folks. So thank you very much again for everyone joining us. And for the record, this is just about the time that we had allotted for today. And as I mentioned before, I can't commend you all enough for taking time out of your busy schedules to educate yourself a little bit more and to take in some more information that could potentially help you. I mentioned micronutrients that would be very good, not just for someone with diabetes, but for all of us being exposed to free radicals in our life. Micronutrients is extremely important. Please make sure you drink an adequate amount of water. Half your body weight in ounces is the correct amount of water. And I'm strongly, strongly, strongly encouraging everyone, get moving. Get off the couch, get moving. A study was just released that said that walking 7,000 steps a day decreases the chance, our mortality rate, decreases the rate of mortality 70%. 70% decrease in the rate of mortality. So you have a better chance of living longer. Just get moving. So what I do now is I just get up early in the morning, and I usually will get my 7,000 steps in before I get to work. You can put recordings on, and you can be listening to something while you're out walking. Find someplace shady that you like to walk, or someplace you can. Don't start out with 7,000 steps. Just start out with 2,000 steps. Go around the block a couple times until you can build up to what you can do. But get that in. If you can get up to 10,000 steps, according to the study, they said that the benefits didn't go up exponentially getting up to 10,000 steps. But if you can do it, do it. Whatever you can to benefit yourself health-wise. So I encourage you to get moving and get off the couch. Sedentary life is deadly. In fact, there was another study that was done back in 2018 that said that not exercising in itself is a disease. You have a greater chance of dying from not exercising than being a diabetic smoker. Wrap your mind around that. James Greer, I said that Linda Wright had the last word on this, but you're waving there. Go ahead, James or Kathy.
It's me. It's Kathy.
I
just
should have
wanted to
known it
say,
was Kathy. I should have known.
I just want to give you the facts about you talking about the walking. I have an aunt who is 95 years old. She walks 3 miles every day, either in her basement on her treadmill or outside. you would not even know she's 95. She looks like she's in her 50s or 60s.
Wait, that's not 7,000 steps. So that's only 6,000 steps. She's
It's
cheating.
the walking every day.
She's
It's
cheating.
It's the walking every day.
It's extremely important. Extremely important. That's good. Thank you very much for sharing that. So keep that in mind, folks. And what's your aunt's name, Kathy?
Her name is Olivia.
Olivia. So tell
Yeah.
Olivia thank you very much, and kudos to Olivia for keeping moving. So it's a very wise thing.
And she has no health problems. She's just
And no health
95.
problems. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, folks, we have to wrap up because we have another meeting coming up with the CEO and founder of Engage Global. So I normally would say that if you're not interested in the business side of Engage Global, that you can leave the meeting, but I'm going to encourage everybody to stay put right now. I'm going to stop the recording of our first meeting, and I'm going to start the recording of this second meeting. I encourage you to stay on. We're only going to be talking for about 15 minutes or so, but I asked David Nemelka, the founder and CEO of Engage Global, to join us for the bottom half of our meeting. So hold on one second. Let me stop the recording.